Hello, Sandy. How are you?
Hi there, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Here in the UK, Liverpool, winter evening, dark is very dark outside. How's you over in the Tampa Bay area?
Yeah, Tampa Bay here in Florida, and it's actually been pretty nice lately. We usually kind of suffocate in the humidity. It's been kind of nice to have a little less humidity, and temperatures have been in the 70s for the most part, so
That's,
it's been nice.
that's our summer weather. That. What would you call yourselves from that area? Tampa Bayans and we're Liverpudlians or Scousers, where I'm from. What's the
Um,
locals? What do they call themselves?
um,
Floridians? Would it be?
yeah, Floridians mostly. We don't really separate it too much in where you live in the
Yeah,
city, kind of thing.
yeah,
But we say like Tampa Bay area,
mm, yeah.
when we say where we're from and that kind of thing. But
Mm.
yeah, Floridians.
Okay. I like the image of the three books behind you. But before we
Oh,
talk about
thank you.
your writing, tell us a bit about yourself, what you do outside of writing and work-wise
Okay.
and hobby-wise and where you go to travel, anything.
Yeah. So let's see. Well, actually, my career is I'm a geologist actually.
Yeah.
And I work for a state agency where we study aquifers and water supplies of the future, trying to protect those. And I'm bureau chief where I work, over 80 people, mostly scientists and drillers and technicians and things like that. So I have a very challenging job during the day.
Yeah.
I write more in the evening and weekends. And it's kind of a love of mine. It's kind of a hobby, but at the same time, it's turned into a second career
Yeah.
with as much as I write and everything.
Okay.
So yeah, so right now we're going to be headed to Hawaii here in
Oh,
December.
beautiful.
Yeah, our son's getting married there actually,
Yeah.
so it's a destination wedding.
Brilliant.
Um, my other son just got married in St. Augustine in October, so we're going to have two weddings by
Yeah.
the end of the year,
Yeah.
2 months apart.
Oh, brilliant. Great time for celebration, isn't it? What are your job titles? Your Bureau Chief of Data Collection. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We like I said, collect the
Yeah.
data
Yeah.
from aquifers,
Hmm.
primarily, and surface water too.
Yeah. I'm looking at your website, but a superb website, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I've done that
Thank you.
yourself. Is that from with Eva Cassidy? Eva Lancaster. She.
Yeah. She's my book manager. She
Yeah.
handles all the book advertising, marketing, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And also, she did all the covers for my book. I just two of them were published before I had met her, so she redid those.
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
The brilliance, actually.
Yeah, and then the more recent one that I published, she did that as well. So
okay,
very happy.
Yeah, I've been connecting with her on Twitter. I have asked her to, well, if she could stretch. I've got a paperback book out, but I needed to stretch the cover to get a hardback. Tried to do it myself,
Okay.
totally messed it up. And Eva said, "Give it to me, I'll do it." So I'm waiting for that to come back. I'm delighted.
Yeah, she's getting mine ready too for hardbacks.
Even on the Kalishi, is it the Kalishi team that she works with?
Khaleesi, yes.
Khaleesi.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the character from Game of Thrones, the mother of dragons, Kalishi.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
I think so. Anyway, I may have got that totally wrong. We chat about your books then. What was the first one? What was the first release? There's 3 out at the moment, isn't there?
Yeah, there's 3 out. The first one I did was The Caging at Deadwater Manor, and that one I released in 2017. That was my debut. And that one is about a girl who finds herself in a situation where she's locked away in an insane asylum. This came from my dad used to work at psychiatric hospitals.
Yeah.
I asked him if he, saw anything creepy there, because I really thought I was going to do a ghost story.
Yeah.
But he said he didn't see any ghosts or anything, but that he did find 2 human cages in the attic of one of the psychiatric hospitals he worked at.
Yeah.
And so that started the ball rolling with, I wonder what that would feel like. And
sounds
then
good.
also
Horrific.
you was telling, sorry.
Sounds horrific.
I can't imagine. I mean, I imagined for the book, but you know, it's just like, yeah, must have been terrible because it was in the attic too, and it's super hot in there, I'm sure. And then also he was telling me that family members, this is, you know, back in the 70s when he worked there, that they used to put their family members away if they were like a family embarrassment. They would just pay to keep them there,
Yeah.
kind of hide away, you know, their issues and things like that.
Yeah.
So she's put there against her will. She's stuck in one of these cages, and so it's a harrowing story of, or a harrowing story of, you know, what it might have been like being one of those cages.
Yeah.
He also told me about the treatments that they used to do to the patients, and as well as some of the research that I did about that time. So, you know, a lot of that is realistic as to what they used to do.
Lobotomies.
So it's in, I'm sorry.
Lobotomies, things like that.
Yeah, I didn't put that in. I didn't put that in there, but there's shock therapy, kind of the water therapy that they used to do. And then, you know, when the patients got out of hand, they would wet them down and put them on a board, and they would get cold, and that would quiet them down. And they strap them on the board, like not a stretcher, like a board. And so, you know, there's a scene when she's first taken, you know, put on one of those boards to try to see what that would have felt like. But yeah, so
Pure torture.
a lot of it is based on what he told me, but it is a fiction. The story itself is totally fiction. There's no genie kind, you know, in real life.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
You won a couple of awards. This is your first novel, didn't you?
I did. I received first place in the Florida Writers Association award contest. It's called the Royal Palm Literary Award. And it also placed with Reader's Favorite as a, you know, kind of a, gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of the
I'm looking.
honorable mention. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Honorable
Yeah. There's a lot
and
to
then
take
first
in,
place. And then first place at the Top Shelf Magazine awards too. So
brilliant.
Yeah, very, very pleased with, you know, that novel.
And you went on to write the second novel. Was this sort of straight after? Did you give yourself a 6 month in between, or did you have this already planned, the second novel?
No, the second novel was 2 years later. I took about a year to market Deadwater Manor and try to get it out there. And then I started writing The Takings. And this was one that actually I had a concept of. The character was kind of something I thought about a lot. He kind of just showed up one day, and I was trying to figure out why I was thinking about it so much, and finally kind of created a little bit of the story. But I worked with my son on this one, actually, Michael. And we met at a restaurant one night, and we kind of hashed out the whole storyline. And then I wrote it from there. So that's how that kind of came about. But it's about a guy who goes through a trauma. He's having a hard time living with that trauma, and it starts affecting his life and other people as well. So
like a Jekyll and Hyde character.
Yeah. So yeah, he kind of changes with time. And as his mind still can't wrap around the people that he lost, he starts wanting to replace them. So
that sounds like a nice, the type of bloke you want to avoid.
It's a great story to read before you go to bed.
Yeah. And then the third novel, again, another psychological dark thriller.
Yeah. So The Replacings follows the story of The Takings. So The Takings is first, The Replacings is second, but I wrote it in a way in which you didn't have to read The Takings if you didn't want to. It's a standalone. But it does follow that story. And if you wanted to know the background of it, definitely read The Takings first. And then The Replacings is, the continuation of this person who's still dealing with that trauma in his life and trying to make replacements of people in his life. So, yeah.
Is there a follow up to this as well? Are you going to make this into a trilogy?
Not next. I think I will eventually. There's just another story that I really want to get out first. Actually, a couple of them. I want to do something different. But maybe eventually I'll do a third book, and then I think that would be it for that series.
Okay. How far along are you with the next work in progress?
I'm actually I've actually written this book. I wrote it first, and I just didn't release it. It's kind of a middle grade. And so I'm actually rewriting it to be a psychological thriller, time travel.
Oh, yeah.
And into my genre. And so I have kind of like a lot of storyline already, in my head and outlined. But I'm doing, kind of like going back into the history. This is going to be a time travel back to Ireland during their famine period of time.
Yeah.
So 1845 to 1850. And so it's about a girl from today who meets a guy from 1849 Ireland. And he's, of course, going through the famine. And so it's going to be a lot about what did that feel like going through that. And, a lot of harrowing
a lot of research.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Ireland? Have you ever gone on a visit? Do you plan on going over?
I have been to Ireland. I think it was 3 years ago now. We went over. I saw a lot of famine sites in that area, and the countryside was beautiful. I absolutely loved it. And the people are very friendly and warm, and I really enjoyed my time there. We want to go back for sure. So it was nice that I got to go and kind of, feel the area, get a sense of what it's like, even though it was, over 100 years ago. But still, really like the culture there.
It's only a half an hour flight from where I am. We've been there, I don't know, at least 10 times over, stayed in Dublin, Kinsale, Cork, all over Ireland. I think as well, when you're flying over Ireland, you see how green the whole country is, just a massive green, the colour.
Yes.
What's why called the Emerald Isle.
Yeah. Actually, we've talked several times. Actually his posts about Eva was one thing that, I started thinking about hiring her. But we've had some conversations and things like that. And I've read one of his books so far. I really liked it a lot. I think he's a great writer. And he mostly does zombies. Zombies. And I love those kind of stories. So, it's right up my alley. But I write dark mostly.
I know what one comment he said to me it was quite funny actually. He said, "I only kill people in my stories." It's a bit freaky.
People that work kind of like, I can't believe that you're the same person that writes these books. Like, it just can't be.
Do you find that your characters, they come alive as well? You may have your notes and things, what the characters, what the situation is going to be. Do you find that they sort of move in different directions or have different conversations than what you had planned in your head?
Oh, definitely. When I write, I see the story as I'm writing. So I'm like almost looking at a movie as it's moving along in my head, and I'm writing what I see. And then the conversation, I can see the characters having the conversation. And then I feel like everything that's happening, and then I try to capture that too. So I've got to be by myself, because sometimes I'm crying, sometimes I'm laughing, or scared or whatever, and just trying to get into the character itself. I think in some ways it's kind of like acting. That you're that deep into the character. I
can ask it on your website. You say about when you are relaxing, when you writing retreat, you sit in a comfortable oak around you. Is this a big, huge chair or something? I'm thinking of this huge, pleasantly placed tree branches surrounding you.
Well, it's basically it used to be a enclosed porch, which we kind of opened up to our house more, and so there are windows. The entire, like 3/4 of the room is all windows, and right outside of those are oaks that are on our property, and they're kind of close windows, and it just makes you feel like you're in a tree house when you're sitting back there. So now I'm in a couch. I don't really have plants inside that room, but right behind me, all surrounding me
Yeah.
are the oaks. So yeah, it does feel like I'm in the tree.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. Sounds like the perfect place to sit and write.
It's very relaxing.
Yeah.
Yeah, very relaxing back there. Yeah. Or I'm writing in this room too. You know, a lot of my writing, I didn't have this room until more recently.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like my writing author room. And so I can come in here and kind of hide away. And, you know, this is another area that I write as well.
Yeah. Have you got a specific routine? Do you start off writing at a certain time, or do you give yourself a target of no many words, or do you just do it whenever, I don't know, you feel like?
I mostly write on weekends because I can get a big chunk of time then. And so yeah, usually Saturday mornings are a big time for me to write. And if, you know, some days if it's really going well, I'll go into the afternoon, but I do try to take a break. And then Sundays as well. When I'm really into writing the book, then I usually pull in the evenings as well, because I don't want to lose the feeling of when I'm writing. So yeah, I'll you know, towards after you know, eating, I'll go right in and do a couple more hours of writing then. So I'd say there's, you know, periods of time, like right now I'm kind of on a hiatus. You know, I've just published a book, so I'm now doing research and things like that.
Yeah.
And then once the wedding is over, probably after that, in January, I'll probably get way more intensive about it.
Yeah.
Definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, sounds. My daughter Lisa, she moved to New Zealand about 6 years ago to Queenstown, and that's the most beautiful place I've seen that I've ever been to at the moment. She had a house overlooked sort of this massive, huge lake, and it was surrounded by mountains, and it was just beautiful.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it. I haven't been there either. I have a lot on my bucket list.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, gorgeous there.
Yeah. Can I ask you, you're writing horror, well, psychological stroke horror fiction. What scares you? I think your intention is to scare the readers, you know, to bring them in and give them chills.
Yeah, I try to get into the psyche of, you know, what would be your worst fear?
Yeah.
You know, one of them, which would be losing your child. And I think I draw from that because my eldest was grabbed in a park.
Wow.
And I wasn't there when it happened. It was with my babysitter. But yeah, he was grabbed. Luckily, the person let him away. You know, he got away. But yeah, that's always scarred me.
That's horrible.
And so I think I draw on that, you know, feeling of, oh my goodness, you know.
Yeah. How old was he?
3.
Yeah. What? I can't think of anything worse. That nightmare.
Yeah. And, you know, of course I wasn't there, so that would have been a lot worse. But and luckily, you know, he came home. But I try not to think about what would have happened if he didn't get away.
Yeah.
So, but no, what scares me, I think anything like being claustrophobic in a small room, in the ground.
Yeah, in a coffin.
You know, buried alive, you know, that kind of stuff. Fires.
Yeah, the normal human fears. I'm glad to wore this black t-shirt now, this dark conversation.
I see that, yeah.
I'm looking at some of the, I can vaguely see some of the books behind you. What do you read? Are you an avid reader?
I am. You know, of course, read a lot of Stephen King. He's one of my favorites.
Which is your favorite? What is your favorite?
Misery. Misery is my favorite.
Yeah.
Followed by Needful Things is another one I really like. Lately, I've read Colleen Hoover, who did Verity. That's a very, very good book. Been reading her as well. And I also do like beta reading for other authors, and read a serial killer one recently.
Like reading?
Yeah, just lovely topics.
How does the beta reading? You say beta, I say beta. How does that work? Is that quid pro quo? Do you passing your material to your beta reader and you're swapping notes with each other?
Yeah. Like if an author is going to release a novel and they want to get feedback from, my thoughts on it,
Mm.
they'll send me the book and I'll, make notes, and it's usually in like Word or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'll make comments and, any grammar changes and things like that. And then give it back to them. And then they incorporate what they want to incorporate. I, just do it as a favor kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a few authors I do that for. And yeah, and then also I send my books to them too. So we swap with the beta reading a lot, and because we trust each other with our, opinions and things like that. So
yeah. You can be honest with each other. Where if you think something's wrong, you'll tell them. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of writers, when they give it to the friends, they give it to the mum, to the wife, and they always say, "Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant." But you need someone to be brutally honest with a fresh pair of eyes.
Yes.
To see the words that you've missed out, that you're blind to.
I do give it to my mom because she is brutally honest. But no, she would be very honest if she didn't like it. But no, you're right. I mean, I think it's best to find someone who's not related to you and get them to review it, and just make sure there isn't anything out of line, or, that they weren't bored to the whole thing, or, that kind of feedback you need. Yeah. And then the editors do too, and they're pretty honest.
Is that Eva? Does she cover the editing services as well?
No, I hire that professionally for editing and formatting as well. In fact, now Eva will probably get all of that. So.
Yeah. Your books are out in Kindle and paperback. Are you looking at having a hardback version or an audio version?
Actually, yes. Eva's going to be doing hardcovers very soon. She's going to start that next week. And then audio, we're doing Deadwater Manor. Should be ready by December, January time period. We found the perfect voice for Jeannie in that story. I'm super excited.
Brilliant.
And yeah, it kind of, when you hear that for the first time, it makes you very emotional.
Yeah.
Like I was getting pretty teary-eyed during it, and chills and the whole thing, like, because it's just like that character comes to life.
Yeah.
And so that's coming. And then right now we're auditioning for the voice for The Takings. So we haven't found the right one yet, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. It's exciting. I had my book transferred to audio, and I was an Irish writer did it for mine, and it is a weird sensation, listening from another voice as well. Some, professional reader, an actor saying your words out loud. It does, I don't know, it gives you that extra element of satisfaction with your writing.
Yeah, it really does, and plus, you're reaching another audience who doesn't necessarily like to read, but they want to listen. I've had quite a few people ask me if I was going to do audiobooks because they don't really want to buy the book itself, the paperback or whatever. So I'm interested to see, the feedback from that, especially from the ones that maybe have read it already, to see how they felt about it in audio as well.
Okay. Have you got an agent, a literary agent, or do you work through yourself?
No, I don't have an agent. I work independently, and I did at first. I didn't have an agent, but I had a small publisher at first. But they sat on my book for 3 years, Deadwater Manor.
Yeah.
And my dad was in pretty bad shape. He's since passed.
Oh.
And did not see the book published because
that's a shame.
Sat on it so long.
That's awful.
So it got to the point where I just had to get it published, and so I did it myself. And at that time, it was just all by myself.
Oh, you're in full control, aren't you?
It did. I mean, I did tell him that the book was dedicated to him, so he knew that. He ended up having Alzheimer's, so it was hard to communicate after a while. But he knew that. It could tell he comprehended that, so I felt good about that. But it was published after he passed. And then I just keep his memory in there and remember the good times we had, sharing notes and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's one of the most cruelest afflictions. My mother-in-law, she's in her mid-80s. She's going through sort of mid stages of the same illness, and it's horrible.
It's really hard to watch. But he, surprisingly knew who we were the whole time. He may not have remembered my name, but
Oh,
he knew who, you could tell he knew that he
yeah,
knew me.
yeah, yeah.
And so I didn't have it quite as bad as maybe some others that way,
Okay, yeah, yeah. Have you got any plans? Have you got a Mr. Netflix knocking at the door? Is there any plans on writing screenplays based on the novels? Do you have any thoughts that
Not
way?
at this point.
No?
Yeah, not at this point. It's not something I've dove into myself, the screenwriting. But I'm open if anybody's willing to take it on. But not at this point. I don't have any kind of plans for that right now.
I think, well, it was my aspiration. I think it's most aspirations of a writer is to see it, on the big screen.
Yes,
someone's coming knocking on your door. Here's £1 million. Let's make a film of your book. That's the dream. Yeah. Final question: have you got any advice for someone who's thinking of writing a novel? They think, they've got a story in their head, but they haven't actually got round to doing it yet. What advice would you give them?
First off, just sit down and write it, because that's half the battle. That's like the scariest part, is doing the first, kind of paragraph, especially if you haven't put a book out before.
Yeah.
I had a lot of people come up to me and say that, and it's like, you just need to sit down and try, just do it.
Yeah.
And then, once you do have something written, to make sure you put out a quality product. Don't make it your first draft. Go through it several times. It gets old, and it's terrible for me. I don't like that part. And then get a professional to edit it for you, so that you're putting out the highest quality product you can, if you're an indie especially. Because the ones that don't are kind of ruining the reputation of the ones that do.
And totally agree.
Yes. So, definitely get an editor if you can, get a formatter to have your book look professional, and get a professional to do your cover. They make a huge difference. These people know what they're doing. We do not. At least I know I don't.
in many ways, that's sort of like there's a blessing and a curse for Amazon. Anyone in theory can type up 100 pages and print it off on Amazon, say, hey, I'm a writer.
Yes.
But obviously the proof is that nobody's going to buy the book, or you're going to get poor reviews. But I totally agree. A couple of writers have said the same thing. Take pride in that work, the effort that you put into it. Get it into the hands of the professionals.
Yeah, make it the best you can, and if it's written well, people are going to read it then. So, if the grammar is something's wrong with the grammar, a lot of spelling errors, it's going to aggravate the reader. So you really want to put out a quality product.
Well, what I found as well was I'm missing words. I'll write a sentence, and for me it'll read properly, but I've missed like the word the, or of, or in, a little small word out. It's when you need that fresh pair of eyes to come in and say, what you can't see.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember, Shutter. I always want to do SHUTTER. Things like that, or like vein, or some comment like beat, BEET, when it be BEAT, those kind of things that, Word is not going to pick up necessarily.
It'll say, yeah, that's a word, but it's not. It doesn't tell you that it's spelt incorrectly.
Yeah. So you definitely need those fresh pair of eyes. Or actually, I usually hire 2 editors, so try to catch them as I can.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone saying that before. 2 editors. That's It's extremely professional. So does it annoy you now when you read a novel by one of the big publishing houses and you see a typo mistake on a couple of pages? Does that jump out at you?
Not anymore. I probably would have years ago, but knowing how difficult it is to catch every single one, no, it doesn't irritate me. I empathize, actually.
Yeah. That's quite forgiving. It irritates me.
Now, if it's filled with them, that's a different story. But the occasional one, it's like, and in some ways, it's like, oh, good.
They are human.
They do it too. Yay, so.
Well, it could come to the end now, I think. But I want to say I've really enjoyed chatting to you.
Oh, thank you. Enjoyed talking with you as well.
Okay, and maybe we can do this again on the release of your next novel, The Time. Is it, if you call it The Time Travel? Is that the title?
I don't have Yeah, I don't have a title for that yet. I've had a couple rolling around, but I'm gonna have to talk to Eva on that one.
Yeah, so professional.
But yeah, it'll be. I imagine it'll have Irish or Ireland in it or something like that. But
Okay.
yeah, not sure yet.
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking forward to it. Well, as I
thanks.
say, thanks very much for your time, Sandie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks so much. I enjoyed it as well.
Good. Well, you take care, and we'll keep in touch as we do on Twitter.
Yes, yeah, for sure. I'll be watching your videos on YouTube for sure.
Brilliant.